Hello and welcome everyone. I just thought I'd make a quick video to look at some of the matters concerning once former UK Health Secretary Matt Hancock. Recent revelations to the media concerning WhatsApp messages that were leaked to the press that show that Matt Hancock, his guidelines and policies were actually about scaring people, which actually caused a lot of harm and death to people. It was nothing to do about protecting people from a virus or concerning public health. Matt Hancock has since become something of a hated public figure and something of a laughingstock, a very disgraced individual, and we're just going to take a look at some of these things, and at the end I'll just let you make up your own mind. So here we go. So here is a WhatsApp message from the 13th of December 2020. This is just about 2 weeks before Christmas, and by now UK has been in lockdown or going through the lockdowns for about 9 months. Now, Matt Hancock is circled in red here, and he's talking about the new strain, and he wants to know how you're going to get people to comply to the new measures that they want to put out. And what he's basically saying here, and you can see it right there, we frighten the pants off everyone with the new strain. And then, of course, he's just talking about when do we deploy the new variant.
Well, we found out a little bit more information about what happened out in the UK, and it looks like there was some leaked WhatsApp messages, and they reveal how Health Secretary hoped to shock public into complying with an ever-changing lockdown rules. Hans on Twitter put this out and said, ICYMI, former British Health Secretary Matt Hancock, wrote a book about his pandemic heroics. Unfortunately for him, his co-author thought the public ought to know the truth and leaked his texts. This is how we know what was really going on. When do we deploy the new variant? So they were talking about scaring the people, deploying a new variant, and this is just absolutely unbelievable. Hans continues, said there's about a 100% chance that very similar text messages were exchanged by U.S. federal bureaucrats, but even if it's only 10%, the UK revelations reconfirm that there needs to be a 9/11 style commission on the COVID response. Too many rights were trampled and lives destroyed. Yes, we need to have Nuremberg 2.0, and we need to have them on trial, produce the text, produce the evidence, because once again, these individuals, they perpetrated the biggest hoax that we've ever seen.
Matt Hancock wanted a favor, and he wanted to deploy a new variant and frighten the pants out of everyone. He was caught on WhatsApp, and I'm going to I was going to play all this and talk about it, but I thought this guy did a great job on Twitter explaining it all, and I like to hear from other voices because it kind of reminds us, right, of when other people are out there. It kind of shows you that you can actually make these yourself and get the information out there as we work together.
I understand this is going to be hard for a lot of people to accept, but the media are finally drip-feeding to us that the whole COVID narrative is a scam. That's why there was so many articles like this. Don't go down the rabbit hole. Critical thinking, as we're taught to do, it isn't helping in the fight against misinformation. People who wouldn't go along with the narrative were labelled far-right conspiracy theorists, nutjobs and tinfoil hat wearers. But now WhatsApp messages are leaking from Matt Hancock, England's health secretary during the COVID scam. 16th of February 2021. Any idea how many people were locked up in hotels yesterday? None, but 149 chose to enter the country and are now in quarantine hotels due to their own free will. Hilarious. 13th of December 2020. We frightened the pants off everyone with the new strain. Yep, that's what will get proper behavioural change. When do we deploy the new variant? Let's go through that again so everybody gets it. We frightened the pants off everyone. Behavioural change. Deploy the new variant. Now let's have a look at Hancock in action at the time.
The new variant is out of control and we need to bring it under control, and this news about the new variant has been an incredibly difficult end to, frankly, an awful year. Well, I think that given how much faster this new variant spreads, it is going to be very difficult to keep it under control until we have the vaccine rolled out.
Just simple words there, reacting it. You're quite emotional about that.
Well, it's been such a tough year for so many people, and there's William Shakespeare putting it so simply for everyone.
They were laughing at us all along, while silencing and cancelling people that were trying to tell the truth. Well, I'm telling you, the media are lying to you and your politicians are lying to you because it's been made political.
They're going to tell you, oh, it's the different variants. It's the new Delta Plus 2.9 turbo diesel variant.
They turned people against each other, communities against each other, even families against each other.
They sure did. And so he did a great job putting that all together so that we don't really have to, we can see how other folks can go out and let us know how things are playing out. I mean, we've got this guy, he's busted. And there's all types of things going on behind the scenes where more and more things that they didn't expect to get out, but we're catching them with what they're doing. And folks are putting these clips out. They're showing his communication there on WhatsApp, and they're showing that he was basically, they were all doing this to gain control of everyone.
So this man basically was making it all up. He wasn't following health advice. He wasn't listening to doctors. He wasn't listening to science. He didn't care about any facts or any real research. It was just about making sure he got what he wanted, and he used the media, he used his position as health secretary to bribe and emotionally blackmail you all into basically doing what he wanted you to do, and guess what? It worked a treat. I mean, the media now has been forced to cover this story. I mean, you can see it here, The Guardian. Matt Hancock under pressure after claims he ignored COVID care home testing advice. Calls for ex-health secretary to publish WhatsApp messages as he dismisses claims as distorted. As they always do, they always claim that it's false, it's some kind of conspiracy theory, but as you can just see then, it always comes out. The truth always comes out in the end, but by the time we have a chance to do anything about it, the damage is always done. And this man has done a lot of damage. And you can see here, more than 100,000 private WhatsApp messages involving Matt Hancock at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic have been leaked, including claims he dismissed expert advice to test anyone entering a care home for coronavirus at the start of the pandemic. You know, there are other claims here that Hancock asking the Evening Standard editor George Osborne, a former boss, to put testing on the front page of the newspaper in order to hit his targets, and warnings from the social care minister that restrictions on visitors to care homes as inhumane. In other words, right, he locked these old people up in care homes or wherever he could find a place to put them, not in a hospital, of course, and these people, when they were the most vulnerable of all people, who, if they got this virus and they already were poorly in their health, were at some of the most high-risk people to die from this coronavirus, COVID-19. And he locked them away, kept them in a isolated area. Very little, if no family, could go and see them. Basically, they were left to die in some cold, horrible place where there was hardly any staff and no one could really take care of them.
But worse than that, what we've learned overnight is that Matt Hancock, who was our health secretary, absolute pipsqueak of a loser, but never mind. I mean, sort of chap, if you were employing him, you wouldn't even let him wash the cars, in my view, but never mind. And so Hancock's group are talking to each other, and they're saying, because of what I've done, that I'm a pub hooligan. Now, you know, you can call me what you like, I'm not a hooligan, but they actually, in these messages, say they want to get hold of our Home Affairs Department because they want, and I quote, to lock him up. To lock him up. And what this tells me today is a couple of things that matter. And it's this. In the name of coronavirus, governments, state governors in America took away from us liberties and freedoms that had been built, defended, fought for over generations and over centuries. We gave unlimited power to people to lock us inside our houses, to tell us we couldn't visit our elderly relatives, to tell us in our case we couldn't even play golf or go fishing. No, we had to do what big government told us to do. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what tyranny looks like. And you know what? On the back of this, I've admitted today that I also broke lots of other lockdown rules.
Something else that has also come to light during recent months is that the use of the drug midazolam was being used to euthanize, as some people were saying, eyewitnesses who spoke out about this. Matt Hancock, as his time as health secretary, actually ordered huge amounts of midazolam, which is a very powerful painkiller. When given in large doses, can actually shut down bodily functions, the vital organs in particular. And it was said during the initial stages of the first wave, and I believe even the second wave, that no real autopsies were allowed to be done on people who died in care homes or, say, in elderly places. What we basically were calling it was COVID deaths. And because we couldn't administer any kind of autopsy to find out what it was that actually killed these elderly people, because midazolam was being used in large quantities, basically Matt Hancock was being given a green light to kill as many elderly people as he possibly could and get away with it by listing on the death certificate, cause of death, COVID-19. Now, this is a news article which I found, and it was recently published on March the 6th of 2023, so only just yesterday by the timing of this video. You can see there, Matt Hancock demanded immunity on care home deaths during pandemic. He knew full well what he was doing. He knew full well that the evidence was stacking up against him. He just thought that as his position was very strong, that he probably wasn't going to get in any kind of trouble, that he could just carry on doing what he was doing and probably hope that no one would notice. It would just be called a COVID death. The measures or guidelines he put in place were right at the time, and if anyone were to basically come around poking their nose in, he could just say we were under enormous strain, we were dealing with something we didn't know how to actually treat, and that would be the end of it. But of course, it's not the end of it, because people have taken notice, and some people have tried to prosecute him. There is a website called The Venetian. I hope that's how you pronounce it. But you can see here, there is an article that was listed on the 11th of January 2023. And it was COVID 1984 update. The Public Union Board appeal decision to dismiss PCP against 4 horsemen. I think that stands for the prosecution service. I'm not sure. But just to give you an update on all this, it's just basically saying that they gathered all the evidence, they put it all together. It was a public funded prosecution that tried to get these people to appear before a court. Whitty, Valance and Hancock and others, to answer questions and charges that were laid against them for causing unbelievable deaths, unbelievable harm, and basically ignoring all kinds of scientific evidence and health advice from people who knew what they were talking about, and those whose voices were censored and silenced because obviously they didn't go along with the narrative at the time. And just to highlight some of the demonstrable facts that they talk about, the vaccines we attempted to stop being rolled out have killed and maimed countless people. Just as we have warned they would ruin in our December 2020 application to have Hancock arrested, and in 2 subsequent applications for summons to be issued. Government lockdown policies have destroyed critical infrastructure, industry and the economy at the expense of the taxpayer and small and medium scale businesses, whilst big businesses have benefited from those losses to the tune of many billions of pounds. I'm just going to go down a bit more. All the available evidence shows that none of the COVID vaccines should have been granted emergency approval by the Gates-funded MHRA on the advice of Hancock, Whitty, Valance and Ferguson, each of whom insisted from the start that the vax was going to be the only way out of perpetual lockdowns. It cannot be disputed that Hancock presided over the implementation of genocidal government policy using vast amounts or quantities of midazolam and morphine on anybody of any age who was diagnosed as having being likely to catch COVID and die. The only trouble is the courts in this country do not allow anyone to launch any kind of public prosecution. They just will not allow these men to face trial, even though the evidence keeps mounting and mounting against them that they're guilty. As we can see now with the WhatsApp messages, they deliberately planned all of it.
A good death needs three things. It needs equipment, it needs medication, and it needs the staff to administer it. So a good death. And it needs the staff to administer it. And it needs the staff to administer it. And it needs a good death needs three things. It needs equipment, it needs medication, and it needs the staff to administer it. So in terms of equipment, a few quick questions. Do you have enough syringe drivers in the NHS to deliver medications to keep people comfortable when they're passing away?
Yes, we do. There was a challenge raised about this about 8 days ago, and we resolved. Actually, it wasn't as big a challenge as was made public, and we've resolved that. So yes, right now we do.
And the second one is with that's to the syringe drivers deliver medication, particularly things like midazolam and morphine. Midazolam and morphine. Do you have any precautions put in place to make sure we have enough of those medications to be delivered?
Yes, we've got a big project to make sure that those sorts of medications, as well as the ITU medications that I spoke about earlier, that the supply chains, global supply chains for all those medicines are clear. They are, in fact, those medicines are made in a relatively small number of factories around the world, so it is a delicate supply chain, and we are in contact with the whole supply chain. Chain, and we are in contact with the whole supply chain.
And in line with that, morphine is currently prescribed per patient. The reason to do that is to stop it being abused. So I have to prescribe it for Mr. Hancock. However, in this situation, if you're going into a healthcare home, You may not want to waste precious things like morphine. Have you considered relaxing the laws around morphine prescribing for doctors and healthcare professionals so that there isn't waste?
That's something that we keep under review. I've looked at that particular point to reduce wastage of key medicines, and it's something that the supply team, in the department and the clinical team talk about all the time. I don't know if that's JVT's part of the clinical team, and he may want to say more.
Thank you. I've nothing really to add on that. Okay. Thank you.
Protocol everywhere in the world, same thing. So clearly, they want to destroy the depopulation. They want to annihilate those who will survive, with their brain being completely unfunctional, obeyed. They want to even put nanotechnologies under the skin, make ID passport with the vaccine. So you see clearly that technology is going to lead people. And as this expert of health, Bill Gates, is actually an expert of
Now, this is something I put together here. On the left, this is information taken from the Office of National Statistics. Now, this here is for Wales, saying the number of excess deaths compared to 2016 to 2019, and then, of course, 2021 5-year average up until the end of December 2022. So basically the end of last year. Our leading cause of death is unknown. It says in there, ill-defined conditions. And interestingly enough, in England, that was the second biggest killer. Influenza and pneumonia being the first, but ill-defined conditions being second. Basically, it says exact nature or extent is not as clear as it should be or could be. So they don't basically know what it is. We've got people dying and they don't know why. Now, this is something to do with the 5-year average over here. Deaths not involving COVID-19. So none of these deaths over here are involving anything to do with COVID-19. But yet, we've still got a same number of deaths, look, as pretty close to first and second wave. And yet they're not involving COVID-19. So what's killing these people? Oh, we don't know. Could it be, say, the jabs? Could the vaccines that you said people had to take might actually be causing this? I don't think many of these people are taking midazolam because most of the people who are dying are very healthy people. We're going to take a look at that in just a moment. But I want you to pay attention to some of the maths that I've done here. Not too hard to follow. these two graphs here, numbers. This one is from week 1 of 2020, so the 1st of January 2020 till the end of December of 2022. Basically 3 years, and that's the number of people who have died during that time. All I've done is I've taken that number here, divided it by 3 years, 156 weeks. It averages out around 11,392 people a week. That's how many people have died during that time. Now, of course, you can add in COVID and this and that and everything else. But it's only in recent times we've been seeing a lot of these excess deaths. And for so long, it's been getting worse and worse and worse. And what I find really scary is that when you take this figure here and this figure here, this is actually for January to the 27th of January 2023, 30th of December 2022. All I did was minus the difference from this one to this one, which gave me 62,307. I just divided it by 4, and I got a number of 15,576. And I just thought, I don't mean to say that this will be the death rate, but I'm just interested to know how many people could that be over the course of a year when you times it by 52 weeks, because this is a month's target, this is a week. It doesn't mean this is accurate. It's just a representation of some numbers I was messing around with. But we get a figure of 809,991 when you actually times that number by 52. And just up here, look, on average, for the most part, 2017, 18, 19, 2020, death rates have pretty much remained the same. There is a spike there because of course we shut down the NHS, didn't let people get access to proper medical care, and we became a COVID-only service. It stands to reason that that number is going to go up. And of course, with the midazolam being called not natural causes, COVID-19 deaths. The manipulation of all this data is very strange indeed. We don't call anything a vaccine-related death, or we're not calling these excess deaths anything to do with the vaccine itself, the COVID-19 vaccine. Even though they're saying on this chart that these deaths do not involve COVID-19. So what on earth are these people dying of? Now here's a group you can go to on Telegram. It's COVID BC Vax Reactions. This is a list of so many people who have had the vaccine, and you can see how things ended up for them. This is a lady who took one of the vaccines, and here you can see she's proudly showing off the COVID-19 vaccine passport, and there she is, laying in a coma or violently ill in hospital with a ruptured brain aneurysm. This one here took the vaccine in the Philippines and died as a result of it. Look. Here's another person. Took his first Pfizer shots and, according to this, unconscious and convulsing after his first Pfizer shot. This one here took his vaccine, very proudly showing it. He died too, of course, and many of these people are reporting that they're dying of heart conditions, heart attacks or clots. Blood clots in lungs and legs. So they took the shot, and next thing you know, they've got blood clots galore. We are seeing so many of these, but of course the media don't talk anything about it. Here's another one, took the same thing. We just keep going down, and it's the same old story. I got my vaccine, and the next thing you know, with a very heavy heart, to make sure the news got to everyone, her mum passed away unexpectedly of a massive heart attack. Another one died at the age of 58, died in his sleep suddenly, no idea why. Passed away suddenly from a cardiac arrest while reading the newspaper. Here's another person, got his vaccine, died suddenly. 43 years of age. Here's a player who's playing football, felt unwell, passed away during a game. I believe he died also as well. No one knows why. I mean, children as young as 7 years old are suffering this problem. It just goes on and on and on. Athletes, soldiers, young, fit, healthy people. I mean, it's just amazing that politicians don't seem to be suffering this problem, even though they were the ones pushing it. It's the politicians who seem to be not dropping dead or dying suddenly. But if you're an athlete, a soldier, or a normal, everyday, healthy person, it seems that you do die suddenly, and no one seems to know why. Now, we've got a bit of a problem here when it comes to excess deaths. We are seeing far too many people who are dying around the world, and this is becoming a very serious problem. And our media are not talking about it. Since they allowed us to go back to some resemblance of normal life and travel and not have to worry about masks and mandates and this and that, they seem to have done tremendous damage to the population also. Because now we're seeing excess deaths. Excess deaths, the highest they've ever seen. Since we've been allowed to get back to our lives, what do you see? Excess deaths in 2022 among worst in 50 years. And this is supposedly during a time when all the vaccines were being rolled out. And, I mean, look here. Is it COVID? They don't know. But everything just keeps going above 5-year average, and these people don't seem to know why. This is the Sun today, actually, on the 7th of March 2023. Australia, suffering the same problem. Mystery, as Australians dying at levels not seen in 80 years. And UK might be seeing the same phenomenon. We're not might be, we are actually seeing it. The data is conclusive in that. I mean, more than 174,000 deaths were registered in Australia in 2022. 12% more than was predicted. In other words, they take out all the usual predictions, you know, what people die from, natural deaths, things like accidents, murders, and various other things, and they can put it into a table, a graph, and come up with an average of what they expect, you know, based upon yearly rates. And in 2022, Australia recorded a massive 12% increase. The UK has been getting anywhere between 20 and 25%. I mean, in one video I saw Germany at 1 week, it was as high as 60%. I mean, look at this one here from the Telegraph, 22nd of January 2022. The depopulation time bomb facing the West is about to explode. Deaths are set to outstrip births as soon as 2025, and new policies will soon be needed to cope with an aging population. Alright, so birth rates are going down, and we're living longer lives, but somehow the population is shrinking, but new policies will be needed. I wonder what they mean by that. I mean, if we just go down here, look. These are some of the countries with the biggest populations. China, India. These ones are expected to lose, you know, they're saying China's what? But 2,100? Half their population. India probably going to lose maybe about 20% there maybe. The USA is expected to remain the same. Japan about half. Nigeria looks like it might actually expand. I wonder why the African nation countries are actually doing better in their population projections rather than, say, the Western countries in particular. Some of the African nations didn't actually use the vaccination program as much as some of these other countries, so it does make you wonder. If you want to look at excess deaths, you can go to Dr. Jonathan Campbell. I've been looking at his work ever since pretty much the beginning of the pandemic when he started talking about all this. He talks about UK excess deaths have increased. Again, here you can see excess deaths in 30 countries. It's like 50 countries now suffering tremendous problems with excess deaths. It's not a local thing. It's not just to one country. This is killing more people. Since the jab rollout, we've lost more people than COVID ever could do worldwide many times over. And some of his more recent video here, he's going on about the Matt Hancock messages. And of course, he gives a really good explanation as to what that all means.
We want to be able to give people objective information. I often got things wrong, but I was trying to give, I still do get things wrong, but I try to give objective information as much as I can based on the information at my disposal. Whereas, as I said, these guys had a lot more information available. So Matt Hancock plans to frighten the pants off everyone about COVID. How the Health Secretary hoped to shock public into complying with ever-changing lockdown rules is the headline. Now, this is basically the leak of these exchanges. So Secretary of State for Health, have you seen the Daze survey? Now, this was the Imperial College London React study, which was actually showing that things were getting quite a bit better at the time. But did that quite fit the narrative? So Patrick Vallance, Chief Scientific Officer, said he'd take a look at it. Matt Hancock, just done presser, presumably a press release, where the media interest was only on the gloomy Cambridge survey. But if we want people to behave themselves, maybe that's not a bad thing. So focusing on a gloomy survey with increasing cases, because at the time it was very localised, wasn't it? There'd be increasing cases in one part of the country and not in another part of the country. And then the Chief Scientific Officer actually says this: agree, suck up their miserable interpretations and over-deliver. Is over-deliver another way of saying don't give the truth objectively? You can interpret that with whatever word you would like to use. But that's what he said. That's the direct quote there. Suck up their miserable interpretations and over-deliver.
While we're on the subject of depopulation and how excess deaths are playing a big hand in all this, I just thought it would be good to come over to this website here. Noble Art, Deagle 2025 Forecasts Resurrected. For those of you who don't know what this is, in 2011, the website called Deagle.com had a 2025 forecast for what populations would be from, say, starting from around 2011, 2013. I think the final entry was around 2017. 2017 to 2025, this is an interactive map, and this is what they're saying. That the UK is going to see a population of minus 77.1%. The United States would see its population drop 68.5%. That Canada would be 26.1%. Australia 34.6%, and as I've already just shown you, Australia is having a serious excess death problem right now, just like the UK and the United States. Why is it that the more developed Western nations drop? 41.7% for France, 41.4% for Spain. Norway and Sweden pretty much around the same, 25%. New Zealand, 24.5%, and as I just shown you again, they're having a serious problem. Do you think maybe that there is some kind of depopulation agenda with the vaccinations of COVID-19? I'm just going to take one more look, because this is Our World in Data. Starts from January 5th to February 19th, 2023. That's the latest data points that they have. Now, I should remind you that some of them do not show data up to a certain point. So when you see these massive numbers here, you have to take into consideration that's probably due to a lack of data not coming in to balance out some of these charts. But look, this is talking about excess mortality, 5-year average baseline, all ages, right? So this is all mortality, but obviously the last couple of years we've seen lockdowns and vaccination rollouts. I mean, Australia recently, look, as November 27, 2022, 849% change. So they're up. Azerbaijan is up 274%. Their data point goes up to the December 31st, 2022. I mean, Barbados, September 30th, 2022, 359%. Bulgaria, January 1st, 2023, they're showing some kind of change of 54%. They're saying they changed the relevant change up until February 12th, 2023, so that's only like last month. 1,332. Let's bring it down to France. Well, they seem to have gone down 17%, although their projections for 2025 would suggest that they're going to lose around 40%. I mean, Germany up 199. They're relevant as well. Greece, according to this, 1,388%. I mean, let's go down to United States. United States, wow. What's going on there? January 15th, 2023. 16,550% change, relative change for all things, of course. But I mean, look at that. I mean, that is just fucking crazy. And of course, United Kingdom, 756%. That's, of course, including Scotland and Northern Ireland with England and Wales in that one. So, I mean, look, you can make up your own minds about this. And just one final thing. This is the Terrorism Act of 2000. And if I draw your attention, this is for the UK, of course. Let me see if I can get this clear. Okay, we go to terrorism interpretation. In this act, terrorism means the use of threat or action where the action falls within subsection 2. And I'll just read this. The use or threat is designed to influence the government or an international government organization or to intimidate the public or a section of the public, and the use of threat is made for the purpose of advancing a political, religious, racial, or ideological cause. This act can fall into certain things, involves serious violence against a person, involves serious damage to property, endangers a person's life other than that of the person committing the action, creates a serious risk to the health or safety of the public or a section of the public, or is designed to seriously to interfere with or seriously disrupt an electronic system. I would say that our government violated this act, committed acts of terrorism against us, but you can see it with the Twitter files, with the Congress hearings out in America, and now, of course, this is probably just the beginning for us with Matt Hancock's shitty book, and of course, his desire to be a celebrity. Of course, he's a psycho. You know, he loves flaunting what he's done to you. He loves it. He laughs at you when he does it. So all I can say is make up your own mind, decide for yourself. But I think it's clear now we are seeing genocide or democide, where the government commits acts of genocide against its own people.
The new variant is out of control and we need to bring it under control. And this news about the new variant has been an incredibly difficult end to, frankly, an awful year. Well, I think that given how much faster this new variant spreads, it is going to be very difficult to keep it under control until we have the vaccine rolled out.
Just simple words there, reacting it. You're quite emotional about that.
Well, it's been, you know, it's been such a tough year for so many people, and there's William Shakespeare putting it simply. Well, it's been such a tough year for so many people, and there's William Shakespeare putting it simply.